Hey, Joyful Journeyer. Anita Adams here, your host. And today I'm excited to introduce you to Diane Wyzga, who helps women clarify their ideas and amplify their messages in the spirit of who they are. From U.S. Navy nurse to lawyer, speaker to litigation consultant, and seasoned backpacking adventure to storyteller, life has been fall down 7, get up 8. For 30 years, Diane has been helping professionals take their story from a message only they could hear to the publishing world, the courtroom, hospitals, board meetings, and the airwaves. Stories that swayed juries, built markets, spread ideas, changed things. Today, Diane helps professional women become successful origin story creators in the spirit of who they are, finding the words they didn't know they had to connect with, engage, and enliven their audience to action while transforming the lives of those they serve. When you summon the courage to say yes, that's the place where your story changes. Welcome, Diane. I'm so delighted to have you here.
Thank you, Anita. I'm thrilled to share the mic with you, and your rendition of that bio simply reminds me once again of the power and the music of the spoken word. So thank you for such a warm and robust welcome.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you for being here and for the work you do. And one of the things I really love about what it is that you do is that you're not just working with women who want to market their business.
No.
You are helping them find their voice, their story, so they can speak powerfully in all settings, be it in a boardroom or the hospital room or a courtroom. So I want to start with asking, why is story so important? And can you share how it serves the average person?
Wow.
Big question.
Let's start easy. Why is story so important? Story has been, since the very beginning, the way in which we don't just communicate with each other, but we converse with each other. We share and explore and imagine and make decisions and problem solve with each other. It's all stories all the time. Stories that we tell ourselves in our heads, stories we tell in our communities. That's simply the way it is when it comes to human beings. We have a way of speaking in narratives, in metaphors. We understand this is like that is. I don't think we can go through a moment in our day without expressing ourselves in story. And it is more than that. It's more than a means of expression. It is simply the way that we as human beings are able to serve up who we are and understand who the other is. And so when we understand ourselves and the story of ourselves, we are in a better position to understand the story of those we come into contact with. So that is why it is so important to us, because we can't live without it. I mean, it's like trying to live without air and water or Cheetos. We couldn't. Well, maybe the Cheetos part. So that's why it's so important. And then the second part of did I address the second question in that, or is there something more you want to ask?
Well, I guess there's a certain way that we share ourselves, right? And sometimes we just talk about what it is we do. But in telling stories, I've discovered that it helps to create connection. And I guess that's where, and you are addressing that. And I guess that's where I want to really dive into is that connection piece. So you become relatable and understandable. So, but what I'm hearing you're saying is that you not only understand yourself, that's an important part of it, correct? Understanding yourself and then being able to be relatable and understood by others.
And understanding others. So a big part of the story journey that we're on in our lifetimes is that spiritual journey. So yes, story has been co-opted by the business world often to market and to sell
Mhm.
and to brand. And in doing so, we forget that story is alive, it is organic, it will follow us home, it will sit at our tables, it will sleep in our beds.
Mhm.
And because of that, because of the real living, breathing nature of story, if we appreciate that, if we welcome that, if we embrace that, we are much more able to understand its power for good and for evil. So there, and you can spin a narrative any way that you want. Having been a lawyer, I can see there are many sides to a story. But for our purposes here, the connectability of story comes from, first of all, understanding your own self, your who. So Simon Sinek says your why is important to know, and it's true. What you do, why you do it, for whom you do it is important. But you get to that place by knowing your who you are at your deepest self. And with, for example, your 30-day nature challenge, you invite us to go out into the world of creation and explore that with a sense of wonder and invitation so that we're inviting creation into us and creation is inviting us back again. So that spiritual journey is part of what the story work is all about. And when we go on an archaeological dig
Mm.
to find our former civilization so that we can better know our story, that's when we come into contact with who we were before, who we are showing up as now. We might not even recognize what that means. They say that most of the values that you have today, who you are today, is oftentimes who you were then, formed by the age of 7. And so by taking the spiritual journey into the who of your story, you face your vulnerability. You
Mm.
face your doubts, you face your challenges, you face the stuff that you're not so proud of, and you also face what you've accomplished, what you've overcome. And when you've got a handle on those things and you see yourself as the whole story, then you're in a better position to extend that compassion to someone else's story. You might not agree with their story, and that's not what it's about. It's not about agreeing with them, it's about understanding them. And the last thing I'll say is the reason that's so important is because the only thing I believe we want in this world is to be seen and heard.
Mm.
Whether you call that love or compassion or empathy, it doesn't matter, but to be seen and to be heard. And when we exchange our stories, that's all we're doing.
Mm. It's beautiful.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
I feel like you've addressed the second question that I was going to dive into, and you mentioned the spirit of who you are. The bio you shared with me, the
Mm-hmm.
spirit of who you are came up twice. So that's what you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about, is about really doing that. I like the term archaeological dig.
Mm-hmm.
That's you going inward to
Mm-hmm.
really know who you are and find that clarity. So this is not just for the businesswoman. I know you serve businesswomen to help their stories shine in their professional world. But this is something that I can see we would all
All
benefit.
women.
Yeah, it would all
Yeah.
benefit.
It's all women.
Hmm.
I invite all women to come and knock at the door because we don't know where our story is going to take us. I've
Hmm.
had some people say, well, my best years are behind me and I don't know what I'm going to do next. And it's all downhill from here. Well, how do we know?
Hmm.
How do we know anything? So we don't know where our story will reach. We don't know who our story will reach. More than likely, it'll reach someone we never meet. But the fact that we've figured it out, we've got a hold on who we are, that cosmic contract that we signed way back when we were, before we were a glimmer in our father's eyes, my father used to say. That cosmic contract that said, okay, when I come here, this is what I'm responsible to do. This is what I want to share. This is what I want to invite out of other human beings. So yes, it's a deeply spiritual journey, and it can inform all aspects of your life. It can inform how you are in relationship in your family, in your neighborhood, in your community. It can inform who you are in relationship in your business place as an entrepreneur. There is no place where having an authentic story, who am I? Why am I here? Doesn't show up.
Mhm.
It's all over.
Would you say that this is a good exercise for people to do who are trying to figure out what they want in life or their purpose in life? Or do you need to have that figured out first and then do your story?
No, that's an excellent question. I think one precedes the other. Where am
Mhm.
I going to go? What am I going to do? All comes back to who you're who. Who are you?
Yeah.
Because we can all pull on a lot of whys. I mean, I listened to my bio. I've done a lot of stuff. I'm the firstborn. That's why. But only when I sat down and said, okay, where's all this coming from? What is the river that flows underneath my life that unites all of this? What is it that is showing up in these various roles that I've taken on? And I can tell you now, it's three things. First of all, there's a sense of justice. Justice matters in my life because I was an incest survivor. And I also came up in a generation where, and it hasn't changed a whole lot, but it's changed a little bit, where women were not allowed, given room to express themselves, told that they should be quiet or less. And so, yes, that's changed, but it's still so incest survivor, growing up in a generation, coming through different pillars of society that unbalanced the male and female. We kept the status quo in a particular measure. So justice is keen, having the opportunity to use your voice, to wield your voice as a tool of change. So that's thing number one. And thing number two is self expression, which pulls into justice. The justice of being able to say, that's not fair. It can be different. It can be better for us. Well, how do we get to that self expression? We use our voices. We use our voices to claim who we are, what we know, and how we can help the world be better. And the third is adventure.
Hmm.
Adventure. I've always been an adventurous kid. And when I look back on it, I realized, my goodness, look at that. I was going out on adventures, whether it was backpacking across Europe or hiking the Camino de Santiago or outward bound, rappelling in the Canadian Rockies. It's always about adventure. So let's take those three things that I've learned about myself: the value of justice or fairness, self expression, and adventure. And I pull it all together and I say, look at that. It's showing up. Unbeknownst to me, it was showing up in the various roles that I was inhabiting as a professional woman. Now it's formed itself or reshaped itself, I guess, into quarter moon story arts. So when we have a sense of that, now it becomes clear. Like, I had no idea. Look at that. And so now we're grounded. Now we're grounded in our who. And once we're grounded in our who, we have a better chance of saying, now, how will that apply in the world? How will I take that and say, what's it for? Who's it for? Why does it matter?
That's
Then we
my
can get
language.
to what's next. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So just, I want to speak back to you what I'm hearing. the key here is to look at your own stories, the stories of your life, and find the repeating patterns or the things that keep coming up, the themes. And that will be telling you how to move forward or what is really calling or speaking to your soul that is going to drive you into this beautiful world of and being of service to others. Did I capture
Exactly.
that? Okay, awesome. So
Exactly.
taking time. So that's a tool that you can use is literally reflecting on your past stories to better understand yourself and what is continuously emerging, be it good or bad. The things that you may even want to push away and like you said you're an incest survivor, yet that has really fueled your desire to be of service in justice, right? So that is telling you
Hmm.
how to move forward, how what your role is here. Do I?
Exactly.
Okay, I
Hmm.
got it. Good.
Yep.
Are there any other tips or practices one can work on in creating their origin story and in the spirit of who they are?
Yes. Go find yourself a list of values. It's really
Oh,
easy to find it on Google. Find yourself a list of values and scan that list of values and find three that really speak to you. And that will help you because sometimes if we're just looking at an empty page, we're thinking, well, what's a value, whatever. And so that's how I came up with mine, truly. And when you're looking at your past lives, think about yourself closer to childhood. Think about those magical years of 7 and 8 and 9. What were you good at in school? Where were you drawn to explore? Were you a solitary introverted kid? Were you more of an extroverted kid? What did you like? And also, as you said, Anita, and this is key, you really do have to look at where the dark sides were because our leadership in our life is made up of light and shadow. And we don't want to look at the shadow. But the closer we come to our shadow and the closer we look into that shadow, we realize how much it has informed our light. And so I would say to look at both of those, look at the shadow, look at the light, and forgive yourself for the shadows and begin to have compassion and celebration for yourself for the light. And you'll find that by making friends with the shadow, you realize what you've overcome. And that right there, there's a poem. David White, who's our island poet, has a poem called "The Well of Grief," and he says that those who dare to dive under the waters and go into the well of grief will find glittering at the bottom golden coins that were thrown by those who wished for something else. At the bottom of our well of grief are the golden coins we threw, wishing for something else. Pick up those coins,
that's beautiful.
examine them.
Yeah.
Isn't he
Oh,
wonderful?
that's beautiful. That gives me goosebumps. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it resonates as deep truth for me as well. When I look at my history, I was somebody who would look in the mirror and cry, and hide behind, put my hair like this and no self-confidence, no self-esteem, very low on the self-love. And there's been a lot of work that has gone into
Yeah.
me to overcome that. And now I feel that a big part of my role here is to help others overcome that, help others find the love of self and to tap into that inner confidence and inner peace. I can
Yeah.
look back now at the pain and in
Mm-hmm.
some ways, in many ways, be grateful for it because it has taught me so much, so much. And it's led me on this remarkable journey. And I see that in your story too, which is it's beautiful. And I hear it all the time. You meet, and especially you and I both in the podcasting world, we meet people that are, serving others and you
Yeah.
find out about their story and you're like, wow, you've gone through so much. And now you're here and you're serving and you tapped into that darkness and now you are radiating so much light and beauty and grace and compassion. And again, I got those chills all over because it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to experience. And we all have that.
We
Like you
do.
said, we all have that story. We all have those gold coins at the bottom of the dark pit that we
Yep,
need to dive into and pick up. Thank you for sharing that.
exactly.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Awesome. You mentioned the name of your company, Quarter Moon Story Arts, and I can't help but feeling there's more of a story actually behind that name. Can you share a little bit more about Quarter Moon Story
Oh,
Arts?
I love that name.
It's lovely.
I love it. There's a wonderful country singer by the name of Kathy Matee, and she has a song in the chorus. She sings that a quarter moon's better than none when you travel the night road. A quarter moon's better than none when you carry a light load. And it's a very haunting story, and it reminds me of someone who is making their way in the darkness, whether they're leaving town, whether they're going out on a quest. And to have that little glimmer of moonlight is just enough to show them the way ahead. And so that was the idea, that to have a little bit of glimmer of light that I can shine on someone's story to help guide them along, not show them the way, but guide them walking alongside of. So that's where the quarter moon part comes from. Story is story. I'm story. So there, that's easy. And then the word arts really is a nod to being here on Whidbey Island, which is, cheek to jowl with artists. I mean, you can't turn a corner without running into an artist. And I thought that story is, there's an art and a science to story. And the science part of it is, the through line and the character development and the platform skills and whatnot. But the place that I really gravitate to is the heartfelt art part of it. So that's how it came together. It wasn't an overnight thing. I spent a lot of time looking out at the harbor and wondering, how do I show up? I guess that was probably more the question. How do I show up in this work? And that's what eventually presented itself to me. So I,
Beautiful.
I like it a lot.
Yeah,
I
it,
do.
it
Thanks for
seems
asking.
yeah, it seems like the right fit for you, particularly since you're also an adventurer, being I'm sure you have been guided by the quarter moon
Oh,
on
yeah.
hikes and walks and yeah, so I got a beautiful visual of that image. Speaking of visuals, your website has a beautiful lighthouse on it, and I know that's symbolic for you as well. Can you tell us a little
Oh,
bit about
yeah. Um, so here on Whidbey Island, our lighthouse is the Admiralty Head Lighthouse, and it has been perched on a bluff for 100, 150 years or so. And the sailing captains that were coming in off the Pacific Ocean through the Straits of San Juan de Fuca would see it up on the cliff, and they would know to hang a hard right to starboard that would take them down the Admiralty Inlet and on toward Seattle. And when I first came to the island, I was looking for ways to become involved in the community, and they needed volunteers. So I went through the training and became a lighthouse docent. And while doing that, I was astonished by people, the numbers of people who came from around the world. People love lighthouses. I don't know what it is about lighthouses, but people just love them. And they would come from all sorts of countries to come and see the lighthouses here in Washington. And they would talk about the lighthouses that were back in their countries as well. And the reason that I use it in my logo is actually twofold. First of all, it's a reminder to me that a lighthouse stands in one place and it doesn't go running up and down the shore and signaling in all the boats that are on the horizon. It just stands in one place and it signals with its particular light pattern, and every lighthouse has a different one. those boats that are meant to come to it. So in my case, I'm thinking of a harbor that will take boats of a certain size, not big shipping containers and not little dories, but boats of a certain size. So it reminds me, I know mine and mine know me. I'm bringing them here. And also, it's a safe place. Lighthouses signal safety. They signal a warning, stay away from the dangers here. So
Mm.
to me, a lighthouse is a powerful reminder of the place where you belong, the
Mm.
harbor where you belong. And that harbor is your safe sanctuary. And in that harbor, we can create the work of the story that's in the spirit of you, your
Mm.
voice.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. And like this stories, we all have them, and you're so good at sharing your story. So thank you for modeling all of that and sharing your voice. So I understand that you have a complimentary 45-minute discovery coaching session that you are offering the Joyful
I
Journeyer.
do.
Yeah, can you
Hmm.
tell us a little bit about what one can expect from a call with you?
Yes, I can. Thank you. No sales, no
Awesome.
obligation. And it's a bit of a stretch. And if people think, oh my God, 45 minutes, what am I going to do? We don't have to use the whole thing, but it gives us both an opportunity to say, who are you? This is me. What do you want? How can I help? I mean, it's really as simple as that.
Right.
And it's a great opportunity to explore what your question is, not necessarily your project, but your question. So oftentimes I'll have a woman say, I'm uncertain about public speaking, or I have difficulty using my voice in public in a meeting, say in a corporate setting, or I've got to do something around a presentation, but I just don't know where to begin. And I find that these entry point conversations actually speak to something that's a little bit deeper than what the initial ask is all about. So it's a great way just to have, whether it's a discovery chat or to learn who each other is. So that's the place. Who are you? What do you want? How can I help? What are you bringing to the table? And we'll talk about that. And then see what kind of a fit there is for going forward. And I will tell you that at the end of that, some women have said, you know what, I've got exactly what I needed. And
Mm.
that's fine. And others have said, we could use a little bit more help. So
No.
that's how the consulting session goes.
Okay, awesome. Wonderful. Now, I know you also have a beautiful podcast that you do, and it's a 60 seconds of words of wisdom from you. And I think this is such a great way for people to get more of you in like micro doses. Can you just tell us a little bit about that as well? And we'll, of course, we'll leave the links to both of these in the show
Yeah.
notes.
Stories from Women Who Walk hit its fourth year anniversary on April 1st of this year.
Wow,
There's close
congratulations.
to 1,100 episodes out on the airwaves. The first year I was doing like you're working, Anita, and that's interviewing women. And then we had COVID and nobody was in their cars listening anymore. So I pivoted to 60 seconds. And I went daily, Monday through Friday. Each day had a different theme that you could rely on. And it was my way of putting something really small into your
Mm.
pocket that you could use for the day. It also acts as my audio business card. So I can say, I can get a message, a story, a call to action down to 60 seconds. And if I can do it, I can teach you how to do it. Sometimes we go over, and hey, it's my podcast.
I love it. I'm the boss.
So I'm the boss. So I've got it up on Substack now. And I've dropped down this year. I've finally dropped down to 3 days a week: Monday, Motivate Your Monday, Wednesdays on Whidbey, and Story Prompt Friday, just so that I can devote more time to clients and stories.
Beautiful.
But there's a plethora of podcast episodes to listen to out there.
Yeah, I've listened to a number and I really enjoy them. I like the short little nugget, like
Yeah.
a word of wisdom or inspiration or something to ponder. And
Hmm.
it's brilliant. So thank you for creating that. And thank you for being with us here today. I really enjoyed this conversation and the power of story. And we all can benefit from investing some time in looking inwards and creating our stories and finding ourselves. I love that. I love that it's not just for the marketer. It's not just about
No.
getting your story out into the world to sell your business. It's about understanding who you really are so you can serve. You can bring to the world the greatest part of who you are. So it's beautiful.
Absolutely. It's well said. Well said. And thank you for this opportunity to share a story with you,
Awesome.
Anita.
Yeah, wonderful. And Joyful Journeyer, I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. Please do check out Diane's website and her free offer and her podcast. You'll find some great value in all of this that she's bringing to you, the Joyful Journeyer. And if you did like this, share it with somebody who may need to hear it, or
Hmm.
write a review or give us a thumbs up. All of that goes a long way in
Yeah.
helping us to reach more people who are stepping into the best version of who they are. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.